the target as it arrives. So we'll go ahead and set it to ease for now. Okay, let's check out the wiggle control. So if we come down here, we can change the wiggle speed to say, 0.5 and the wiggle amount to say 40. And if we play this back, you can see the camera kind of moves around as if it's in water or something. So that's the wiggle control. Okay, next we have inertia, and this is a cool way to add a little bit of bounce into your animation. Now here's the key to this. We want to set the ease target mode to ease out. And that way when they're leaving to go to the next target, it'll be slow, but it'll stop immediately when it gets to it, which will allow us to add our inertia because it's calculating the speed at which it arrives. Basically, if we set this to about 5 and this to about 6 or 7, here's what we have. Okay, here we go. And we have a little bit of a bounce. Now we can turn the amount up to about 10. Check that out. Now the decay kind of works backwards. A higher number will make it cut off sooner, and a lower number like 3 will make it bounce for a long time. So I like to set it to about 8 or so, just so that it gives you the motion but isn't messing up your animation. So that's inertia, a very cool way to add just a little bit of life to your animation and just kind of makes it fun. Now the camera roll is a cool feature that emulates the way a jet flies. When it turns, it sort of rolls over to the side that it's turning to. So in this case, it's kind of like being in a car with really loose suspension where it kind of bounces forward and back. So I'm going to go ahead and take our roll text, and instead of rotating it, I'm just going to move it over to the side here. So if we go over here, sure target, we'll set the camera roll up, we'll turn it on, and we'll go and set the amount to 2. You usually want to keep it pretty low. If you have a fast animation, keep it down to maybe 0.1 or 0.5. But let's go and take a look at this. So you can see it's just kind of a bouncy animation, and play around with the settings and the combinations, a lot of fun. Now we have the autofocus. So this is pretty cool. It basically controls the autofocus of your camera. So we'll turn on focus targets and depth of field. Now the reason that we have it set up this way is that focus targets calculates the focus, but you may want depth of field on, but not necessarily focusing the targets. You may want to pull focus yourself, but in this case we're just going to turn it on, and it basically automatically calculates the distance from the camera to your target. And let's take a look. Now the aperture is a little bit high, so let's turn that down some. And we'll take a look. Now the next feature is called Dolly, and what it does is allows you to change how close a camera is to your target. So we'll turn that on. Now if you notice, the stop is pretty small and the drop is pretty small, and the roll is pretty small. They're exactly the same size because the camera is exactly the same distance away from my target. So what we can do is turn up the dolly amount so that we can get closer to specific targets. So stop, that's a pretty intense word. So we'll turn the dolly 1 and make it really close. And then it'll interpolate that to the next target, which is set to 0. We're not affecting that. We can even do negative values to be even further away from it. But we'll move this in a little bit closer just for the sake of it. And then we'll have it pull out for this one. So basically what it allows you to do is get closer or further away from your target without having to animate your camera. So it's all procedural and it's all automatic. Now in the next example, I'll show you how that works, but here we go. Now let's talk about some of the new target features. So right now it's set to 10, but you can go all the way up to 100. And there's a cool feature called Autopopulate. And what that does is allow you to make your targets added without having to go through the drop-down lists and add them one by one. So if you have a lot of them, or if you have to rearrange the order or something like that, then you don't have to go through and redo it as cumbersomely. Let's take a look at how that works. I'm going to go ahead and set the targets to none. And here's how you set up the auto-populate feature. Scroll up to the top of the plugin and make sure the sure target name is selected. Hold down Control and click on the layers in order that you want to add them into the target list. So stop, drop, roll, scroll down, click on the auto-populate button, and they automatically get added to the list. Stop, drop, and roll. And what if I want to change the order? Well, just go up here to the top, make sure it's selected, and reselect your layer. So go roll, stop, drop. Click execute, roll, stop, drop. And the cool thing about this is if you have like 20 of them, you could just easily click through them and add all your targets without having to go through your list. So that's a cool feature. Okay, let's take a look at the next feature, the Create Baked Camera button. Now, here's the thing. Expressions can be very slow. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of calculations going on. And here's the problem. If you have motion blur in your scene, motion blur relies on subframe sampling. So it needs to calculate the expressions at a subframe level, which means one frame could take 8 times as long if the motion blur is on. So the solution is to create a baked camera with all of the settings automatically. So what you want to do is set your work area, and that's these 2 bars here, to the area where your sure target is. Click on the Create Baked Camera. Quick warning, hey, it's kind of slow, watch yourself. Don't bet against any open-ended straights, and hit yes. And it takes a minute. Don't stop it, don't force quit. It's just creating all of the calculations in a baked camera. Okay, so the camera is done. Here's what it's done. It's created a camera. It shut off the original camera, but we can always go back to it. But the cool thing is all of the keyframes are already added, and all we have to do is play it back. So check this out. Play this. Now, if we turn on the motion blur for our layers and the comp, so if you're using a simple setup, using the sure target camera is probably okay, but if you're doing a really complex setup with inertia and all that stuff, the expressions can slow you down. So baking a camera is a great solution. But if you want to make a change, well, just delete the camera, turn your other camera back on, and make sure you shut off the motion blur because that can be a bit slow, and just go through it and play with your settings again, tweak it until you get it right. But the cool thing is you're usually going to set your camera up and then focus on the design and getting the look right, and then maybe some more camera tweaks at the end. So there's really a good workflow either way. Now, a couple other minor features that are just going to be useful to using Sure Target is the fact that we've added some condition protection. So what if someone accidentally makes a layer not 3D? Well, Sure Target says, whoa, what's going on? The layer needs to be 3D. What are you doing? And the cool thing is if we come down here, that target gets removed. Now the benefit of this is that you won't be able to break the expressions, because if the expression breaks, it will cause this whole conflict. So instead it removes it so that you don't have any broken expressions. That's something we worked on pretty hard, and hopefully it should be rock solid. But here's the other thing. What if we try to add a layer that's not 3D? So this drop layer is not 3D. Say, I want to add that. Again, it doesn't let you. So that way we don't create any conflicts. We'll make it 3D, and then we can set it up again. Now, with that said, if you should run into some expression error, we have the refresh expressions. So just click that, and the expressions all get refreshed. And for example, if I unhook these expressions, now it should never happen, but if it does, you don't have to worry about going in and turning them on. Just click on this refresh expressions, and the plugin goes back through and makes sure everything that's on is on that should be. So pretty cool stuff. So now that you know about the tools, here's the video that we showed on the blog, and you can kind of see some of the various techniques integrated, and this gives you, some other ideas on what you can do. Now let's take a quick look at this earlier example with the montage.